Don Lane, Fraser Valley News. The suicides over the past week of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade have brought out an unbelievable outpouring of empathy on social media. And again, it goes back to awareness. We have to teach people to understand that mental illness, depression, suicide is a real thing, and it should be talked about. If you know of somebody who has been acting depressed, kind of weird lately, ask them how they're doing. Really listen to how they're doing. A couple of things come to mind. I don't hide the fact that I have been in recovery for quite a few years from drugs and alcohol, but I have also had a number of times being treated for depression, for mental illness, and it was probably the best thing that I ever did next to cleaning up and sobering up. So I can't overemphasize the fact that go get help. Help someone. Find out what the suicide prevention line is. Go find out whether it's in Greater Vancouver, whether it's here in the Fraser Valley, whether it's Canada, the United States, doesn't matter. But help as best you can. Early in my radio career, I had a couple of people, ironically both of which I worked with in Victoria, at the old CJBI in Victoria. When the first one passed away, it was the proverbial, well, we thought he had his act together. And then when we found out he committed suicide, we were just shocked. But we were in our early 20s. We didn't know. And we didn't have the awareness that we do now. This was the late 70s, early 80s. When that second person died, it was about 10, 15 years later when I found out about it. I was crushed. Again, I never thought that he had a problem. Fast forward to about 7 years ago. I had already left News 1130 in Vancouver and come back to the Valley. And a guy who I worked with there, I also went to BCIT with. We took broadcast together. He took his life. And it was one of those where, really? I never thought, what? Suicide, depression, mental health issues, they are a very subtle but dangerous foe. And it brings me back to a story that I tell a number of times. And this is when I was in Ottawa. It was the day Kurt Cobain took his life. And we were all in the newsroom there at the radio station in Ottawa. And we had this one high school student. He was doing a practicum. And you could tell that Kurt Cobain's death shook him hard. Very hard. That was his idol. Cobain was talking to him when he sang with Nirvana. The afternoon news anchor at the time, Wayne Parkinson, on the ball. He was able to get this kid, calm down first, we had to calm him down, but he got a hold of a suicide prevention crisis line and the people behind it. This was in Ottawa, and was able to talk to somebody to get an interview. We also got him to get a hold of a Seattle rock station, it was KISM actually, to talk about Cobain. And fortunately, somebody in the newsroom there knew enough about suicide prevention, about mental health issues, about depression. That probably saved his bacon too, because he was a little shaky there for a few days. It is a very difficult subject to talk about. But if there is one thing from personal experience that I can pass along, is take it seriously. If you see somebody that needs help, try and assist as best you can. Don't just think, well, if he has the willpower, he can pull up his own bootstraps. That doesn't work. Little empathy goes a long way. If you feel that you're on shaky ground, there's no shame in reaching out and asking for help. We strongly suggest you do it. For someone who tried to commit suicide a couple of times during my drinking and drugging days, I understand where that headspace is. That's something I don't usually talk about in public, but in this case I will. I'll break my own anonymity if I can help at least one person. And if that person is you, okay, we did our job. The information for suicide prevention and the hotline and the depression prevention and Fraser Health and other health issues, we have that on various media, not just Fraser Valley News. Many of us have. check us out. We do have the crisis lines up, not only on the website, but on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. It's there. And if we can ever help, reach out to us. We'll be there for you. Don Lane, Fraser Valley News.